Kate.
Joining us right now is the Democratic Senator from Virginia, Senator Tim Kaine. And Senator, let's stick on immigration for a moment, actually, because you and other top Democrats are forcing a vote this week on legislation to essentially require the administration to put out a report that would detail steps that it is taking to ensure compliance with the court orders we've seen when it comes to deportations to El Salvador. What is this going to do?
Kate, you're right. We just want the administration to follow the law. And so there is a privileged motion, which means even a single senator can file it and you'll be guaranteed a vote that will require the administration within 30 days to produce a human rights report on El Salvador, including the conditions of the prison to which American residents are being sent and the efforts that the Trump administration are taking, if any, to comply with the unanimous Supreme Court order in the Garcia case. This is something that the State Department will have to produce within 30 days, or security assistance, all security assistance to El Salvador will be cut off. We're expecting the vote later this week. It's a simple majority. And I'm saying to all my colleagues, if we're going to allow a president to cut a secret deal with a dictator to deport folks to prisons in that country, we at least ought to ask basic questions about whether folks being deported there from the United States are given fundamental due process.
But, I mean, Senator, just following your line of thinking, if you think that the president is not following the law now, what makes you think that the president and the administration would follow the law if this became law?
Well, I'm not sure that this will force the president to follow the law, but automatically, if the administration doesn't produce the human rights report, all security assistance to El Salvador is cut off. And that probably includes the very funding the president is using to pay Salvador for this. So this imposes a consequence on El Salvador. If the report is produced, the Senate can then take up in a privileged vote whether or not to terminate security assistance to El Salvador. So this is about the Trump administration, but it's also letting El Salvador know, if you collude with the president in violating Americans' constitutional rights, don't think we're going to forget it. In fact, there will be a serious consequence to it.
It also could put Republicans in the Senate in a position of putting them in facing a tough vote if they think that is a tough vote, which is part of what happens in the Senate. Let's talk about something else, because you are on all relevant.
Why wouldn't they want a human rights report? Why wouldn't they want a human rights report?
At the same time, they don't want to be. A lot of people, Republicans, don't want to be seen as doing something that would anger President Trump. But I do need to move on, because you are on all relevant committees, so we have too many topics here. But HHS Secretary RFK Jr., he's going to be testifying before one of your committees this afternoon. This is the first time since his confirmation hearings. And since then, just some of the things that have happened, he started slashing staff from 82,000 to 62,000, a quarter of its workforce. Among other things, he's also pushing the CDC now to study whether vaccines cause autism, despite decades of research that we know. Otherwise, it's already proven to not have any connection. So what do you hope to get from him today?
Kate, I think I'm going to focus on the massive cuts to staff. When you essentially shutter the agency that is responsible for mine safety, we have a lot of coal mining in southwestern Virginia. When you make dramatic layoffs to the FDA, responsible for the safety of our food and our medicines, then what you see is not only layoffs, but significant effects of constituents. And I'm also going to be asking about the poor treatment that my constituents are getting from these agencies when they ask basic questions, or they try to get the help that they're entitled to as taxpaying Americans. These massive layoffs end up dramatically affecting the quality of service that they get.
President Trump is on his now second day of his Middle East trip. I want to play for you the way that fellow Democratic Senator Chris Murphy described the trip, accusing the president of going there to personally profit off of U.S. foreign policy.
He went to Qatar and the Emiratis and the Saudis because they are willing to pay him money. Every single nation is doing personal business with Donald Trump and Donald Trump's companies. The Saudis have been a major investor in his real estate company. The Qataris are buying him a plane. The Emiratis are the biggest investor in his cryptocurrency. So he's there on his behalf. The United States gives them favorable treatment in a variety of really important ways, and they pay Donald Trump money.
And in a twist overnight, the president has announced he's lifting sanctions on Syria, seen shaking hands with the new president of Syria when he was still in Saudi Arabia. On the Syria front, which seems a major development in lifting these long-held sanctions, do you think this is a good development for the United States?
We were surprised at this. I think the smarter move, there's a new government in Syria. They're a little bit untested. We would rather they be cooperating than not. I think the smarter move would have been to suspend the existing sanctions for 90 days to see if there is good behavior from the Syrian government. The president says he is lifting all sanctions. Is that actually the case, or did he shorthand it? What are the details? I think the right move is to suspend sanctions for a period of time and test the behavior of the new Syrian government.
That's interesting, and I guess maybe TBD on a little more clarity on that one. The president on the flight from Saudi Arabia to Qatar called the new president of Syria young, attractive, a young guy, has a strong past. He's got a shot at doing a good job. Do you have an assessment of the new Syrian president yet? Do you share that sentiment?
Look, the new Syrian leadership also has significant terrorist activities in their past. I think it was good for the world when the government of Bashar al-Assad was toppled finally, because he has led this wonderful country into a death spiral. And so there needs to be a new chapter. But I think the answer is it's too early to tell. We don't want Syria to fall back into being an Iranian puppet state or being dominated by Russia. And I think the new president offers some opportunity for them to start a new chapter where it's going to be Syria run by Syrians for Syrians. But as I say, it's too early to tell. And the new leader does have some troubling activities in his past. So again, that would suggest to me that the U.S. policy should be to extend a hand and, to suspend sanctions, say for 90 days, see what kind of behavior there is. But I wouldn't completely lift all the U.S. sanctions based upon the past track record. We've been disappointed in Syria before. Let's be realistic as we look at the situation now.
Yeah, a Syria run by Syrians, for the betterment of the people of Syria would be a great thing right now. Senator, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. We'll be listening to that, your questioning of the health secretary very closely this afternoon.